There are few accessories out there that redefine a device as much as the Magic Keyboard does for the iPad. This combination case and keyboard take what was originally designed as a content consumption device aimed at people who want more than just a phone and those that really wanted to get the best drawing experience on an Apple touchscreen device, and totally changes it into something unique that is not out there on the market anywhere else. And more than a year ago, Apple dropped this literally Magic Keyboard on us, and in that time, I've purchased 3 of them. So how are they holding up after all of that time, and is this still the best accessory ever made? Let's find out. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. With all of the talk of the new M1 iPads and people being fired up both positively and negatively about the device, I figured it would be a good chance to take a step back. Let's all take a step back and really appreciate the king of the iPad lineup, this keyboard. We should have made this video a long time ago because, let's be honest, nothing in this planet makes me happier than a good keyboard, and darn it, this is a good keyboard. First up, let's start with ordering options if this is your very first time watching a video about either of these, and then we'll get into the things that I like and I dislike after using, well, this one specifically. This one's new. This one I've had after using this one for a year. Much like the iPad Pros they were designed for, the Magic Keyboards come in a couple of different sizes. You can get the 11-inch version, which will work with both the iPad Air 4 and the 11-inch iPad Pros, and this will run you $299. You can also get the 12.9-inch version, which only works with that iPad Pro, for $349. Yes, that's expensive. I can't sugarcoat that for you today. If you look at an older iPad Pro 11 or the iPad Air, these keyboards can run about half as much as that iPad. That's exceedingly expensive. And honestly, that doesn't seem to make much sense when you consider you could purchase an alternative for far less. But just hold on a second. Hold on a second. While it is expensive, I don't think that means it's not worth it. And I think we'll really be able to explain that today. First off, let's cover the things I don't like. We're starting off with the dislikes because it's gonna be quick. I really only dislike the price. Seriously, when it comes to a keyboard and case dealio, there isn't anything to dislike here. I'm not sure what their build materials or product budget was for this keyboard, so I'm hesitant to say they could have saved money in materials or structural places, and I wouldn't want them to take anything functionally away from the keyboard. I think this has the right amount of features, so I'm not sure that it could actually have been any cheaper. And yes, any company could sell their products at a loss, so this would be an option for Apple here, but why would they? They also have the Folio keyboard available that is also a keyboard and a case for less, but it's not as good. We've made videos on that in the past. It's a fine keyboard. It's just fine though. If I were to have one nitpick about this, I do wish the extra charging port right here in the bottom gave full USB-C functionality. I'm pretty sure that's a limitation of the smart connector on the back of the iPad and that it's not able to pass enough data, but it really irritates me that when I need to plug a dongle in and it just hangs off the side of the iPad, like right here, just hangs right off there. Not good. Much like a laptop, I wish I could just plug that dongle in right here in the base of the keyboard and not worry about it getting yanked out or putting stress on my USB-C port because the dongle is hanging out with stuff plugged into it. But that's small potatoes and really not that big of an issue when you consider all the rest of what this keyboard gives you. Okay, we got to stretch out now because we're going to get into the things that I've really liked over the past year, and there's a lot of them. The first thing I like is aimed more at the 11-inch version because I do prefer the smaller iPad Pro. These two together are like the perfect size for a notebook replacement. And I actually mean like a paper notebook. For work, I love having a notebook with me at all times to jot down meeting notes, and it's a really easy way for me to know what happened in a meeting and what needs to be done when we leave. Because nothing makes a meeting an actual waste of time like no one knowing what happened and what happens next. And here, check this out. Look, it's actually the same size. This is my real life notebook, and this and the iPad Pro are exactly the same size. You get an infinite amount more of functionality with this tiny computer than my notebook. My notebook never runs out of battery life, though. The next thing I like is the actual typing experience, and I would hope so, right? That's pretty good news. If there's one thing a keyboard has to get right, it's the actual typing. These keys are so nice, and no matter which size keyboard you get, it's totally workable. You will notice a difference between the 12.9-inch and the 11-inch model, but it's not insurmountable. The 12.9-inch keyboard is basically the same as a standard MacBook, and the 11-inch is maybe an eensy bit too small for my liking if I were going to use this as my only keyboard during a day. They did have to do some design robbing Peter to pay Paul to even get this to work on such a small face, And there are a few things that will make you feel a little scrunched when typing. Mostly that comes down to the delete key, like this part right over here, and the space for the palm rest, because you don't really get much of a palm rest at all. But even that nitpick doesn't take away from how perfectly clicky the keys are. Listen, but you probably can't because the microphone's like up here. It's just so enjoyable to type on when you get right down to it. The next thing that I've really liked is the build quality. I was kind of concerned that this would get beaten up or look terrible after a year of use, but so far, I think it still looks pretty darn good. Yes, this past year involved a lot of working from home, and I haven't been as rough on this as I might have been in a more, I don't want to call it normal, in the before time, but I have used this quite a bit, and it has traveled with me at times, and the material has held up pretty well. You can see right here, there are some smudges on this, and yes, you can actually tell that it's been in use, but any device is going to look worn after you've used it for a year. The hinge is still holding strong. I haven't noticed any problems with the display staying in position. It's just really still good when in use. We already talked about them, but the keys still type great. I haven't felt them go out or lose their clickiness over the past year. The magnet holding the iPad up to the keyboard hasn't loosened at all, as far as I can tell. This always makes me nervous because if this drops, this would cause me two problems. One, I would embarrass myself pretty bad on this YouTube video, and two, I'd have a broken iPad. I wonder which one would actually be worse. It would be, at least it would get clicks, right? If somebody was like, look at that guy, he broke his iPad trying to show stuff. And the charging port at the base hasn't loosened up or gotten to the point where it won't hold the cable in as snug. Like I said earlier, this keyboard is not cheap, but I think that's because they used quality components to build it. Leading me into the next thing I've liked, the hinge. I think it's really telling that the iPad Pro in the Magic Keyboard looks a whole lot like the brand new iMac. This is such a great way to get your display up and back so it's more usable if you are trying to get some word processing or other productivity tasks done. I like this so much, and I like this and how it floats better than how I like the display on a standard MacBook. You get just enough of a tilt and you can really angle it to your preferred level. Plus, because of the way this keyboard is built, it makes this really easy to use on your lap if you're trying to work from your bed or from a couch or a chair. And what's even better about that is the iPad. You know, the computer itself is not against you when you use it in that manner. Even on the new M1 MacBooks, if I start doing gaming or video work, that processor will get warm, and I don't always want that. Like, I don't always want a warm computer in my lap, especially when it's starting to get summer, and that can become uncomfortable. And it gets even worse if it's going to be sitting on my blanket while I'm lounging about in bed. But here, you've just got the keyboard, and it never ever gets warm. If the iPad, I've never even really felt the iPad get warm, but even if it gets warm, it's not going to be against you. This is a small quality of life thing, but it's real noticeable when you start using a laptop again. The next thing I've really liked is the USB-C charging port. I know it was in my complaints a few minutes ago, but that doesn't mean that I don't like that it's here. This is such a great way to charge the iPad, and one of the things you absolutely miss out on by going with a competitor's option or like a stand and keyboard combination. We already talked about this when we talked about dongles, but I hate having things plugged into the side of the iPad when I'm using it. And the thing that I need to have it plugged in for most often when in use is to charge it. The USB-C towards the bottom makes this just like a laptop, and you don't even notice the cable. Look, the cable comes out the back, you'll never even see it. And then the last thing that I've really liked, we already talked about the keyboard, but I like how well the trackpad works. Like this trackpad built in here, it's not very big, but this works better than trackpads on a lot of laptops. Yes, iPad OS is not a desktop replacement. It's not a Mac OS replacement, but there are times when having a mouse cursor works really well. And this has a great click to it. It's very responsive. It's very precise. It's so crazy to me that an iPad keyboard can have a better trackpad than most of the actual laptops on the market. But at the end of the day, so what, right? 1 year later, do I continue to recommend the iPad Pro Magic Keyboard? Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's not surprising, right? I opened this video saying that it totally changes how the iPad functions. This is the best accessory ever made. And I don't just mean for the iPad. This is easily the most transformative addition to a product that I've ever seen. It doesn't turn the iPad into a MacBook. Let's make that clear right now. It does not turn this into a MacBook, but it does turn it into a wholly new and unique device that does not exist elsewhere on the market. At least for the 11-inch model, the one that I'm most likely to have with me, you can replace the need for a bigger, bulkier computer where you might not want to bring a MacBook or a Windows laptop. If you just need something small that you can type out and upload your meeting notes or your plans or stuff like that from wherever you are. This keyboard is so much more than just a keyboard, and I consider it an almost essential part of the iPad if you are going to buy an iPad. This is almost part and parcel for the whole thing. And if you like this video and you're curious how the new white version stands up to the older black models, you can find my video talking about just that by clicking right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.